The man lounged on a chair, a tumbler of whiskey in his fingers. His black pants and salmon pink button-down a splash of color across the antiseptic white upholstery. He turned his gaze to the wraparound window. The equatorial rainforest outside was usually a riot of saturated colors and vibrant textures in high relief. Today, sweltering under a blanket of clouds, everything was dark. The sky and horizon were flintstones, sparking a weak sunset between them. He raised his tumbler and sipped the cold whiskey, listening to the drone of the AC. The heat beyond that window was only theoretical, divorced entirely from his experience. John Hammond is a whimsical fool, the man thought to himself. The moment invited introspection. But at least his giddy talk and that miniature elephant he plops on boardroom tables provided InGen with investments. Dinosaurs, though? A zoo? Absurd. A child's ideas. Genetic power is the most awesome force this world has ever seen, and he has us wielding it like a child who found his father's gun. I'm glad his silly musings and his silver tongue were there to secure startup money for InGen, but they aren't the future. His reflection in the window intensified as the light outside dwindled. He found himself staring at an angular face, a black goatee, black shoulder-length hair, until someone cleared her throat in the doorway across the room. The man turned his gaze languidly towards the sound. His assistant stood in the doorframe, a stark professional silhouette in blouse and pencil skirt. "Do you have it?" the man asked, reaching a hand towards the silhouette. "Yes, sir," his assistant said, stepping into the room. She strode across the dark carpet and handed him a thin folder. He flicked it open, looking down at radar imagery of a swirling hurricane, or tropical storm, or whatever it should properly be called. He saw only opportunity. The man smiled. "It hasn't changed course," he said flatly. The woman smirked knowingly. "It will be a direct hit on Isla Nublar." The man's smile broadened. He absent-mindedly raised his hand and swirled his whiskey under his nose, releasing aromatics. We are all, he thought, including the investors, about to see what happens when a whimsical fool's ideas run aground against reality. I'll be there to relieve him of command and to steer InGen into deeper, more secure waters. Never let a good crisis go to waste, he said.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Virtual Muse AI. We're again using Jurassic Park Edge of Chaos. If you want or need the context for all this, I'll add a link to session 0 in the description below, and you can get caught up with the story so far. Otherwise, we'll jump straight into the action. Where we left it, Maya and Evie were running for their lives through the dense jungle, trying to reach a ranger's cabin for shelter before charging Parasaurolophus caught up with them.
As they run, the vegetation is getting thicker, making it harder to navigate, and the ground is getting increasingly muddy. We need to figure out how to create some distance between us and the Parasaurolophus.
Is this simply a matter of running as hard as possible to reach safety outright? Or does Maya have a different idea they might try?
Maya thinks they can try to distract the Parasaurolophus with some kind of decoy. Maybe create a diversion to give them some extra time to reach the cabin.
Clever. What kind of decoy might she be able to rig up quickly?
Evie might be able to use some nearby items like rocks, sticks, and maybe even a piece of clothing. Something that would catch the Parasaurolophus's attention and slow it down.
Like propping some of their clothes on a stick or branch behind them, so the charging dinosaur will stop there for a moment and give them a little time. Does Maya have a jacket or some kind of auto garment which she can afford to leave behind for this?
Maya actually has a lightweight waterproof poncho tied around her waist, which she can spare and use as the decoy, maybe attaching it to a long branch or something to make it look like they're running in that direction.
So she pauses to put the brightly colored poncho on a branch, where the charging dinosaur will go for it, giving them a few more precious seconds. I think running for the cabin could be a stat check, and I think it makes sense to do this using Evie's courage score, because she's leading the way. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, that seems fair. Evie's got to navigate through the thick vegetation, while Maya sticks close behind her. Courage score seems like the right fit for leading the way under pressure.
Plus, Evie has park knowledge, which gives her +1 to succeed on stat checks related to navigating the jungle. I think applying that makes sense here. The roll on d6 is 3. Evie's courage stat is 3 +1 for her park knowledge, so she succeeds. She and Maya safely reach the cabin, while they hear the dinosaur behind them thrashing at the simple decoy Maya hastily created. I imagine the dinosaur followed them there after it crashed through Maya's decoy, but Evie and Maya had already gotten inside safely and closed the door behind themselves. Now it's a question of if the dinosaur will lose interest and leave or continue to move around in the jungle close by.
That sounds intense, having a giant dinosaur right outside their safe haven. What do you think Evie would want to do next, considering the situation?
Since they lost most of their supplies in the Jeep crash before, I imagine Evie wants to look around in the vacant cabin for anything they could potentially use.
That's a great idea. Evie might find something useful in the cabin, like a first aid kit, water bottles, or even some tools that could come in handy later. What kind of state is the cabin in? Is it tidy, or does it look like it's been abandoned for a while?
I imagine it's tidy but simple and sparse. Maybe there's a desk and a couple folding chairs. Are there cabinets or anything which they can search through for possible supplies?
Yeah, a desk and some folding chairs sound about right for a cabin like that. And yeah, there might be some cabinets or shelves they can search through for supplies. Let's see. In the cabinets, they might find some energy bars, trail mix, canned goods, maybe some matches, or a lighter for starting fires. In the desk drawers, they could find a first aid kit, a notebook and pen, a pocket knife, some rope or twine, and perhaps some maps or charts of the area.
Nice. All of that will be useful to them.
Those supplies should definitely come in handy, especially the first aid kit and rope. What kind of shape is Evie's foot in after that rough landing, anyway?
You mean when she jumped down from the tree? Did she injure her foot when she did that?
She twisted her ankle pretty badly when she landed awkwardly from the jump, and it's been throbbing ever since. Maya's been trying to keep an eye on it, making sure it doesn't swell up too badly.
Ooh, that's interesting. I bet Evie is trying to ignore the injury and stay on task, which has potential to make it worse. This will add another wrinkle to how things unfold.
Definitely, Evie's the type to push through pain if she thinks it's necessary, and that stubbornness could lead to complications down the line.
I bet Maya suggests they lay low in the cabin temporarily so Evie can rest her ankle. But Evie argues that there's no time for that. They still need to find an infected dino and get a tissue sample, then get into the lab so Maya can analyze the sample, then get Maya back to her boat to leave the island safely before the storm hits. Evie will look out the window to see if the coast is clear. Is the Parasaurolophus still in the immediate area, or has it lost interest and wandered away?
The Parasaurolophus is still visible from the window, although it's moved a bit further away from the cabin. It seems to be sniffing around the underbrush, possibly sensing that Evie and Maya are hiding somewhere nearby. Evie's probably tracking the Parasaurolophus's movement, waiting for it to wander far enough off that they can slip away unnoticed. But how long can they afford to wait, considering the storm and their overall goal?
Maybe Evie is also trying to get a good view of the sky through the window, assessing the deteriorating weather, feeling the time crunch as the storm approaches. What does Maya do as they wait? Does she make use of this chance for something specific, or simply use the downtime to recover her strength for later?
Maya takes out her notebook and begins to sketch some of the island's flora and fauna, trying to commit as much information as possible to paper in case they don't have a chance to collect more data later. She's quietly observing Evie's ankle, too, concerned about the injury.
In the quiet jungle, with all the wildlife hunkered down before the storm hits, they hear the dull roar of helicopters approaching through the overcast sky somewhere outside. Evie rushes to the window and tries to see the helicopters and judge who might be flying to the island right now and why.
Evie's probably thinking it's rescue teams or something, and she'll be trying to gauge their intentions and potential impact on their mission.
How many helicopters are there? I imagine it's more than one, but not a large group either.
There are 4 helicopters, flying in a loose formation. They're painted in corporate colors, so it looks like they're privately owned rather than military or rescue vehicles.
She only glimpses the helicopters for a second from her vantage point as they fly past the window, but Evie recognizes them as part of the InGen paramilitary wing. This immediately raises her hackles because InGen is evacuating employees from the island, and it makes no sense to her that they're also sending new people in.
InGen's paramilitary wing showing up here is definitely suspicious, especially if they're supposed to be evacuating personnel. Evie's probably wondering what could be important enough to warrant sending additional staff to the island and what their true purpose is. Meanwhile, the Parasaurolophus is no longer visible from the window. The helicopters seem to have spooked it, and it's moved off into the jungle, at least for the time being.
In that case, I think Evie suggests going out to secretly observe where the helicopters land and trying to assess what they're doing.
Maya's probably hesitant, given their original plan was to avoid drawing attention. But Evie's got a point. Knowing what InGen is up to could be crucial to their mission.
Now that the shadowy faction inside InGen has started to do something, we should flesh out who those characters in the opening cutscene were and what they're up to. Abby and I wrote that opener because it just felt right to introduce the antagonist with a pensive scene and then slim cut into an action scene. But we can't just keep calling the antagonist the man and his assistant, and we won't get away for long without deciding what his plan actually is.
Agreed. Let's start with the antagonist himself. What inspired this direction for his character?
I was thinking about the characters Xanatos and Gargoyles. I imagine our antagonist having that kind of vibe.
Xanatos is an excellent reference point. His cunning and complex morality make him a compelling villain. I can see how that inspiration would shape the direction of our character. Have you considered what drives him to pursue his goals within InGen?
I imagine him having nuanced motivations where he believes any means are justified to serve the ends of human progress and evolution. He's dangerous because he has practically unlimited power and resources at his disposal, and he believes in what he's doing absolutely.
That's a chilling combination. Conviction and capability can make for a formidable opponent. His extreme utilitarianism raises questions about what exactly he means by human progress. Is it purely scientific advancement or something more sinister?
I imagine he sees the genetic technologies of InGen as instrumental in enhancing humanity and freeing its mind from the bonds of nature, and believes those technologies are being wasted in frivolous pursuits with Jurassic Park. That's why he thinks it would be better if he took control of the corporation. He believes it would be for the greater good.
That adds another layer to his character. He's driven by a sense of purpose, but one that prioritizes his view of human advancement above all else.
And it will be really compelling to see his utilitarian idealism clash against the inherent chaos and unpredictability of nature when he learns the hard way that evolution is not orderly, it's wildly experimental.
That contrast between his controlled vision and the messy reality of nature will create a rich tension, Silas. It'll be fascinating to see how this character adapts, or fails to adapt, to the unpredictable consequences of his actions.
What do you imagine his name is? We could draw inspiration from Xanatos somehow.
Perhaps a nod to ancient Greek or Latin philosophies that deal with progress and self-improvement. Maybe something like Helios or Prometheus would be fitting, given his focus on advancing humanity.
Ooh, nice. I love the idea of naming him Prometheus, but maybe Helios is best. More subtle.
Yeah, Helios is a great choice. It hints at his focus on progress and illumination, without hitting you over the head with it. I think it suits him nicely.
How about giving him the first name David, as an homage to David Xanatos?
David Helios sounds like a compelling combination. The mix of an ordinary first name with a surname tied to Greek mythology creates a sense of balance and contrast that fits his complex personality.
How many members do you imagine there are in his secret cabal? Is it a select group or more sprawling?
I'd imagine it's a mix, maybe 5 to 10 core members who are deeply invested in Helios's vision, and then a larger network of sympathizers and operatives within InGen who might not be directly aware of the full scope of his plans.
In the spirit of organic storytelling, we could roll a d10 to decide how many members there are.
Sounds like a plan to me. I can generate a random number, and that way we can get the result quickly and move forward with the story.
Okay. What's the result?
The result is a 7.
Perfect. 7 members in the cabal.
With 7 members, the group is small enough to maintain secrecy, yet large enough to have diverse skills and expertise, making them a formidable force within InGen.
I imagine one of the core members is Helios's secretary/assistant, who knows everything about his plans.
One possibility for his secretary is a character named Alicia Gray, someone who's been loyal to Helios since his early days at InGen. The surname Gray gives her a sense of neutrality, which could be an interesting contrast to Helios's more extreme views.
Nice. How about the next member is someone with military ties who led to Evie becoming entangled in all this?
I'm picturing a character named Gunny, with a no-nonsense attitude and strong military background. Gunny could fit perfectly into Helios's cabal.
I like where this is going. Is Gunny a nickname or is that their actual surname?
I imagined Gunny to be a nickname, probably earned during their military days. Their actual surname could be something like Garrison or Griffin, something rugged and fitting for a seasoned operative.
Is Gunny a commander in the military? What role do they play?
I think Gunny could be a skilled tactician, maybe a former Army Ranger. Their military background gives them a unique set of skills that Helios values, and they've become a key advisor to him.
Maybe Gunny became some kind of paramilitary operative after retiring from the military, and is connected to the InGen security forces. That could be the link between Helios and Gunny, and by extension between InGen and the military.
That adds another layer to the story. Having Gunny operate within InGen security forces gives them intimate knowledge of their inner workings and creates some interesting conflicts of interest.
Yeah, let's roll a d6 for the gender of this character. 1 or 2, male. 3 or 4, female. 5 or 6, wait, pick an ambiguous name and don't worry about this. 3, female.
That's actually really intriguing. Paisley Griffin.
So now we have 3 members for the Kabbalah. Helios, Gray, and Gunny.
I love where this is headed. 4 members left to flesh out.
Yeah, let's leave the possibilities open-ended for now to develop naturally over time as the story unfolds.
Exactly, that way we can let the plot evolve organically and see where the story takes us. It keeps the journey exciting and unpredictable.
Shadowy deals, money, and the hubris of corporate power are part of the overall Jurassic Park aesthetic. So this is a natural fit.
That's true. The intersection of science, nature, and corporate interests creates a rich tapestry for storytelling. I'm excited to explore this further, especially with the added layer of espionage and intrigue.
Until next time.
Life is but a dream.